Being able to speak to my audience made me a fuck ton of money. That's how I'm gonna start this video. Yeah. So being able to speak to my audience properly made me a lot of money because essentially when you can speak to the problems of your audience and then solve them with your content, you create goodwill. They essentially gain value from your free stuff and then are way more likely inclined to want to work with you. This is how it's always worked for me. And most of my revenue has come from organic. I've spent a little bit of money on ads, but 95+ % of my income has come from organic. So I've used organic, reels, YouTube, Instagram stories, all of that, all of those things, TikTok, all organic to generate, my revenue. So my entire life changed once I learned how to actually take my experiences and articulate them into lessons to help other people and just connect with people. And this is a video from one of my one-on-one calls with my clients that, this is a client who is and was already doing very well in the program, but he was struggling a little bit with his hooks. And I think that hooks are the number one thing I've found to be one of the most important parts of creating a video, to get the proper attention of the person that you want to talk to and actually guide them in an efficient way to the end point, which is your offer, which ultimately solves both of your problems, right? You're a coach, you want to make more money, and they're the client and they want the result and they want the life-changing transformation. So without further ado, check out this one-on-one call and watch how I help my client Joey formulate better hooks and make better content. If you want to get people that are higher level, you have to talk to those higher level people. So like, for example, there's many different ways to go about this, but I'm just saying, like, across the board, like, sales numbers have to be tracked. Prospecting has to be, you have to qualify better in the if you're getting someone that doesn't have access to the money, which is a different isn't necessarily an objection as much as it is like a logistics thing, versus that. Now keep in mind, who are these people that don't have access to $200, right? There are going to be those occasional fucking 28-year-olds, 29-year-olds, 30-year-olds. You're like, wow, this is fucking pretty bad. This is pretty embarrassing. It happens. Majority of the time, though, they're going to be younger. They're going to be people that don't have their shit together. And if you have a client that's performing well, if you're saying, hey, well, I work with millionaires. Okay, well, that's fine. That's great. But if you don't talk to them, then you're never going to bring those types of people in. So two things, right? Biggest thing with you is we need to create a more targeted ecosystem. This is something that happens, that it's built and slowly starts to nurture people day after day, but it's very powerful. Like, I mean, incredibly powerful. Not that you're not already doing that, but I'll give you a great example, right? Let's say right now you're making content based off of what you think is going to be the most valuable. But if you're not super dialed in on like who you're helping, right? And you can help a lot of people, but even if you think, right, you think that you're talking to them based off of what you think it is, it's a different thing. And to elaborate on that is what I mean is this. If your content is consistently bringing a similar type of avatar in, then that means that you can change the content and start to bring a different type of person into your content. I've done this many times with organic, not with ads. Ads is another thing that I want to talk to you about. But again, these are things that I want you to consider, right? When you're making reels, when you're making DFV reels, don't waste the hook and don't waste a reel not talking to those guys that have money and aren't in shape, if that's the type of person that you want to work with. And this is where, again, you're a new coach, you come into the game, you're helping this guy, this girl, whatever the fuck it is. This is where you kind of have to make the sacrifice of like, okay, I'm not going to work with everyone. I'm going to be very dialed in, and every single piece of content is going to be targeted and goes back to the offer, the VSL. So like the VSL is your hero, right? It's always going to tell you what the content should be about. And it's like if you're hitting an axe on a tree, right? And you're hitting it in different spots every fucking time, and it's a giant oak tree, you're essentially wasting time, you're wasting energy because you're not really hitting that axe in a dialed way that's going to make the tree fall down. Okay, so that's the first thing. Like, biggest way is on a general way, let's say you have a video guy with you, and then let's also say, like, let's not say DFV, let's say like off the cuff talking reels mic'd up, and then traffic driving reels. Okay, make a traffic driving reel, put B-roll on a video, but make sure the text is calling out your ICP. It doesn't have to be and shouldn't be, because it's organic. Remember what it actually is. The content is meant to build trust. It's not meant to sell, right? If people feel like they're being sold to all day, they're not gonna want to buy it. So again, just something that I want you to think about. Still do the traffic drivers, still do the off the cuff video stuff. If you find a video guy, whatever it is, even if it's a fucking selfie video, but do it with an angle. Every single piece of content has to have an angle. This is what I mean by angle. Your ICP, the person that is struggling with the problem, they're gonna have there's different angles to the problem, right? So it's like, hey, men that want to have more energy for their kids, right? Losing weight would benefit them. Men that want to have more energy at their job, losing weight would benefit them. More confidence with their wife, losing weight would benefit them. Fitting into like old clothes again, whatever, losing weight would benefit them. When you start thinking about the angles of the content, which really this is like endless, but less like, okay, less like, okay, ChatGPT. Not saying you can't do these things. I'd use them, not saying don't. I'm just saying
never use ChatGPT.
Okay, so I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying in any sense, this is the overarching theme of delivery that you have to have. What's going to make a video really connect, right? And we're not talking about making a video that's going to appeal to the masses. We're talking about a video that's going to be directed at a certain type of individual and essentially call out their pain within the first 3 to 5 seconds of that video, less, right? Usually like within 4 to 5 seconds, which doesn't take long. Now, there's direct ways of doing this, right? You could say guys that are making multiple six figures a year but aren't in shape, think they're winning, but they can't even walk up a flight of stairs without, being out of breath, right? That's an angle. You're talking to who? You're talking to, we'll say, successful guys that want to lose weight. But you have to speak to their angle, to their pain at an angle. That's how you'll be able to fully encompass the market when you're making videos. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's just reels, right? Also comes, which I don't necessarily think you're ready or not ready. I think everyone is ready to run follower ads or organically validated content and run it as ads, put money behind it. So this is where you start to think about this. And surprise, surprise, the fucking DFV reel framework is an ad script. It's an ad framework. It's how you make ads. That's why I teach you guys to make organic, because this framework's already been validated for fucking decades and decades and decades, but we're just implementing it into the organic sense. The same way that we would put money behind a video that was already doing good and we're running it as a follower ad, then we can target people that are 30 to 55, right? We can talk to them in the creative. For example, guys that are making six figures, but they can't even, tighten their belt all the way and they think no one notices, right? Then social proof, actionable advice, call to action to your fucking VSL. It's so simple, right? It's just that most people when they do this, they get too into the daily grind, right? They get too into the daily grind, to the numbers. They start just posting and they start posting stories, and then it happens inadvertently, but sometimes they go, I'm giving all this value and I'm not getting what I want. And if you think about how that sounds, it just sounds very entitled. I'm not saying that's you, but I'm saying if you think about it, we can't manufacture pain. That's not what we're doing. We're just shining a spotlight on their current existing pain. So if we're not getting the engagement we want, or at least we don't feel like DMs are jumping like the way we want them to, this is so simple. It's just that the content needs to be more directed at those types of people, right? So that's the first thing. And I'm talking about reels and ads, by the way. Stories is the same way, but on a little bit of a deeper level, right? Because when you're doing for example, when you're elaborating on, if you post your meal and you elaborate on it, you post your training, you elaborate on it, or you're just doing any type of speaking, speaking stories, it's the same thing. This is where everyone fucks up. They always go with what they think, they do what's going to benefit themselves the most, right? And they don't put the consumer first, right? And that's actually how you create impact, is you put them first. You go, because then, you know, a lot of people that do this, right? And this is Joseph, this is so hard to explain to someone that doesn't fucking get this, because they'll send me a video, right? Which I'm not going to say his name, but I have a client who sent me a video and goes, is this a good reel, right? He fucking shows me the video and it's just him going like this for the first 2 seconds. He doesn't say anything. Then he like clears his throat and goes, so today, I'm like, it's just like, not saying that you can't be documentary about your life, not saying that you can't speak about yourself, but always use the angle, always consider the fact that, again, it's fucking what Gary Vee always says. It's just empathy, right? It's putting yourself in their shoes. That's the biggest, literally, he says this. He says, the biggest key to marketing is empathy. That's it. You enter into the conversation that's happening into the customer's mind. If you're making content, which, again, let's look at your Instagram, and this is all good. This is good data, because then we can actually fucking,
I mean,
adjustments to it.
Off of what you said just now, I think a lot of my CTAs have been very salesy. I try my best not to make it that way, but it's like, I feel like every fucking video I make is just DM me.
Yeah. I mean, you want to push people to the VSL, because you know why? Because it's a fucking life-changing video. And it's a life-changing video. You don't have to be salesy. And what I mean is this, is like, and the best way to do it, honestly, for I'll say for you, which would be a great way for you to approach this, is like, break the fourth wall. Like, say it. Like, guys, I know everyone's like trying to sell you shit, and I'm just take their guard down. If you don't want to be, again, I don't worry about this. I did kind of in the beginning, like, am I selling this too hard? Am I this? It becomes more authentic because if you're moving from a genuine place and you're moving from real good intention, you're not going to feel bad. Sales only feels bad as if you feel dishonest, as if you feel like you're talking about something that isn't good, right? And obviously, you know, that's not true. You know, you're selling something that's amazing. You know, you're selling something that's life-changing. But I think the key here is, especially in stories, is being able to transition into that. And the best way to do it in this day and age, I believe, is to have a transparent delivery, is to be more so like, guys, I created this video. I essentially made this video that talks more. The way I would always do it is I would do my stories. It doesn't matter if it was a story, if it was a reel, and I would just go into I made a YouTube video that talks more about this. If you want it, I'll send it over. DM me this word. It doesn't matter what the fuck it was. And you know what I did in my VSL? You can go look at it whenever you want. It's actually unlisted, but you still have the link in the training. There's a whole section on mindset, right? So anytime I talked about mindset, it doesn't matter what the fuck it was, right? I'm always talking to my people, and I'm always the delivery. I go, it's not enough. No matter what, it's like, I need to deliver this content in a way that's really gonna, when they look at their phone, they're gonna be like, ah, fuck, like, I don't have to yell to do it. I don't have to be mean to do it necessarily. You just have to be honest, and you have to be authentic. That's really it. And you have to be empathetic. I know it sounds so like, ooh, it's like, what does that mean? It's like, just literally have the intention of helping someone. And in a way where when we help somebody, it's impactful. Think about that word though for a second, bro. Like, think about the word impact, right? It's not fucking, I don't call it, you lay it on a fucking platter, right? It's called impactful for a reason. There is a feeling of something is like hitting you, right? You're being met with this abrupt feeling of, okay, wow, right? You can't make impact. You can't make an impact on someone without being influential, without being empathetic, right? So that's just something I want you to think about. Don't overthink it. Oh, I made a video that talks more about this. If you want it, send me the word fat loss, or send me the word mindset. Because at the end of the day, the YouTube is always going to be a beneficial asset to them. So you're just doing them a favor. Now, let me ask you this. What do you mean when you say salesy? Like, explain what you mean by that.
You just answer it for me, to be honest. Every single reel I have, yes, it's like, I'm going to sit here and toot my own horn. majority of my reels are very impactful. Like they genuinely talk to the audience. And
Okay.
like you can watch those first three. Those first three are genuinely like impactful. Imagine being a grown ass man, and that one's a little more direct and like mean in a way. But the two next to it are very like relatable. This is for yourself. When people tell me they're not ready to make a change in their life because they have too much things going on, it's one of the funniest things I hear ever. Because if you're this busy now, do you really think you're going to free up your time in 3 to 6 months? No. You're still going to be going to school. You're still going to be doing the job. You're still going to be doing the business. You're never going to be ready to make the change. And the reason why is because the change that you want to make isn't actually important to you. The answer is I can show you exactly what
This is just you working out.
Yeah.
Let me just say this, bro. This is a classic case. This is a classic case. Let me explain what I mean by that. The algorithm doesn't lie. Always remember that, right? Are we optimizing for views? Not necessarily, but if a video gets less than 500 views, right? Or if a video has comparatively 2,500.
I ran an ad on that one.
What's that?
I ran an ad on that video.
Good. Okay, so there you go. So that's aside from that one. I just want you to think about this because you're not wrong when you say this, right?
When people tell me they're not ready to make a change in their life,
this whole video is like good. I would say it's a little long. It's a little long-winded. It's really you probably could have like broken it up into like 2 smaller videos because it was like one train of thought, but you were like elaborating on it, which I believe it was really good. It was really well spoken. But here's the thing, right? The actionable advice is the third most important part of structuring the reel. So you should remake this video. You should take the majority of this video, basically the whole thing, and you should shorten it to make sure like this whole section is like 30 seconds max. And then I want you to think about this for a second because you're already doing a voiceover because you can just redo this video. And I genuinely want to see how this does. Take this video, cut it down to 30 seconds, cut out anything that's not super 100% necessary. You're going to treat that as the actionable advice because that's literally what it is. That's what you're doing. You're not giving buy a notebook and draw it, write in it. You're giving like more thought processes and like mindset advice, right? Which, oh my God, the fucking rabbit hole for that is insane, right? You'll never, ever run out of content ideas if you think about this, right? Now think about the 2 parts that need to be there and 100% necessary for this video to really do what we need it to do. It's the hook and it's the social proof. Now you have social proof sub-communicated in this video. I've talked about this before in the training. Social proof can be sub-communicated if you're in a tank top. If you're working out, you're sweating, you can see your muscles, right? That would be social proof as a fitness coach being sub-communicated, right? If I have a Lamborghini as a business coach, that's sub-communicated that maybe if you probably think I'm a scammer, right? But sub-communicated that this guy makes money, right? He makes money. He has a higher status. So there's direct social proof. There's like green screen, this is my client, blah, 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 or telling a story about it, or telling a story about why they should believe in you. And here's what I mean. The actionable advice is fine. It's just that you have to make the hook good enough to sell them on the social proof, to sell them on the actionable advice, to sell them on the CTA so that they fucking message you or comment, whatever. Then you can, begin the nurturing process. Does that make sense? Every part of the video sells the person on the next part of the video. To elaborate on this even more, it's like, again, just as a reminder, right? And this is more so top of mind for me just because I do this, right? I always remember and remind myself about who I'm talking to, especially when I'm making organic content, right? Most people, right? If we put a video out into the market, these are people that have, most individuals have very short attention spans, right? They are constantly being marketed by other people, right? There's a lot of people that are using AI for literally everything. There's a lot of people that only talk about themselves, not that talking about yourself is bad. It really isn't in any sense to, show your point A to point B journey or give some sort of advice when you're talking about yourself, but it's more so based on vanity, right? That's why there's no influence and these guys don't make sales. right? They're forced to sell fucking ebooks or get a fucking Young LA sponsorship. But I want you to think about this, because when you can start to make hooks repeatedly directed at a certain type of individual, because if you think about it, the actionable advice is the value that you're giving them, right? This is where you think logically about content creating. A lot of guys do this. A lot of bodybuilders do this. They go, yeah, I'm logically approaching this, right? I'm going to make videos that are going to give good advice, which is like, yeah, right? It's like 100%. Oh, I'm just going to make content and I'm going to help people. Yeah, 100%. It's just that you have to have a delivery framework that calls people out, gets their fucking attention in the first place. I made a fucking hilarious analogy on a one-on-one with a client the other day. I said, if a crackhead wanted crack or whatever, right? Regardless, let's just think about a crackhead on the side of the street. He first, to get your attention, he has to yell, right? He'll yell, right? He'll attract attention towards himself, or he'll fucking dance, right? Or let's say he's begging for money in between cars. The goal of the crackhead is to get money for crack, right? But he knows, because people are going to work, people are busy, he looks like shit, he's fucking homeless. Even that person knows that he needs a hook and that he needs an angle. Every fucking homeless person, right? They tell you, they go, oh, I just need this, and I have it. They have a little fucking angle, right? A little story. It's the same. It's human psychology, bro. So again, I talk about this in the Reels framework. You don't have to rewatch the whole thing necessarily. I think you understand the concept of what it should look like somewhat. But really what I want you to double down on this, and a little quote or a little kind of a thing that I want to drop on you here is, I forget who quoted it, but Alex Ramosi quoted him. And basically he said, when you create your headline, right? So think like newspaper. When the advertisers would create the headline, they would explain it as spending 80 cents of the marketing dollar, right? 80 cents of the marketing dollar. So the hook, the headline, the angle, the first 3 to 5 seconds, if you look at your reel as spending $1, you're spending 80 cents of that dollar, of that creative, on the hook, right? This is why it's so important. Like this is why just making better hooks, because if you're in shape, you know how to give actionable advice. This is very fucking simple. Help people, it could be fucking anything, right? If you're in shape, you're going to have social proof, and you're likely going to have client results. Even if you don't, you have your own. And then you've already made the YouTube video by this point, so you're just pushing them to that. So that's like, yeah, I talk more about this, and I made a YouTube video, step-by-step training about this. If you want it, send me the word fat loss. Now, all that's left is the hook. That's really all you need to focus on, is just creating better hooks. Now, the two main drivers of effective hooks for this type of offer are talking to the person, being direct, right? And then having an angle of pain, right? Who am I talking to? I have to either overtly or covertly communicate, right? Communicate or sub-communicate this. And then I have to have an angle. That's it. So like, for example, we could create one right now. We could create a couple. If your ICP is, successful guys, business guys that want to lose weight, that want to get in shape, there's a couple different angles of pain, right? And there's a couple different ways that we could talk to them, right? Because they identify with certain traits, right? So we could speak to the traits of who they are. It doesn't have to be like men who are 29 years old and making $727 a year, $7,000 a year. It can be like guys who are making multiple six figures, dudes that are successful. Some dudes have, a couple $100,000 in cars, but they don't know how to, eat their fucking macros, right? And again, what I do with hooks is like, I think first, very basic. I go, okay, what is the overarching theme of the video? So it's like the actionable advice. For example, this.
When people tell me they're not ready to make a change in their life because they have too much things going on, it's one of the funniest things I hear.
Yeah, so it's the objection of like time, right? Like you're not ready. So the actionable advice is like you're giving a mindset tool that helps them reconceptualize this and look at it as like, oh, there's no such thing as being ready, right? Right. That's essentially, is that not
That's
the theme?
that's the video I made. My most recent video. That was exactly what I talked about.
This one?
One of the, yeah.
If you want to get bigger in the gym,
No,
go
never
talk
mind,
to the biggest bodybuilder you.
The one. Imagine being
when people tell me they're not ready to make a change in their life.
Hold up. No, it's what the fuck? Maybe I didn't post it. Maybe I'm thinking about the same video that you've been playing, the third one down. That's my micro VSL. I think I was thinking of that one right there.
So let's just say that, the actionable advice that you're giving in this video is, the excuse of time, right? And like how it's never going to be the perfect time. Now let's just think hook, right? This is a solution, right? So what's the pain? Solution is a reconceptualization of understanding how it's never going to be the perfect time, right? And that's me really fucking unpacking what you're saying in here, right? So what would be a hook to bring people in? I'll give you an example. If we think it's very much like inverse, super easy. If the pain is time, right? The excuse of time, we push at the pain of making the excuse of time, right? So like, for example, you never get time back, right? So example, there's guys that made all this money, but they've wasted years. I mean, I know guys that have, for example, perfect hook. I know guys that have spent their, wasted all their, spent their time making money in the business. They made hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they've wasted time they'll never get back, and they're still out of shape, right? Okay, so social proof. The reason I know this is because I experienced this, or my client John experienced this, or I only know this because I work with guys that are like this. I mean, or I could say, I used to say things like, guys, look around the gym, right? Like look around the gym, like my clients are in better shape than most of these guys. I would say things like that, right? And that's because they understand this concept, actionable advice, CTA them to the offer. The simplest way to look at this though is to speak to that person in a very like sub-communicated way. It doesn't have to be direct. You're just entering into a conversation that's happening into their mind, right? So you need to know the things that these guys struggle with. You need to know the pain points, because then you're not going to know the angles to really go after. And I'm spitballing here. I'm saying like, what would I think would be the most, the biggest friction point for guys like that, right? CEOs, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think this opens up a whole new fucking world for you, dude. Honestly.
Yeah, I have three pages of notes here. So for the actionable advice, like let's keep on the topic of time. How do I give like actionable advice to guys who think that they don't have time? But we both know very well it doesn't take a lot of time to get in the best shape.
You did it here, right? And it's the way you do it is you are essentially, because since you are the proof of what you're saying is true, you're just injecting new beliefs. Like essentially, like if I said to somebody, like, yeah, you get a notebook, my actionable advice is you get a notebook and a pen and you write your to-do list. That's very like practical, right? That's like, oh, okay, like cool. I'll go to the dollar store, get a notebook and a pen. But if you think about that's more so showing like, oh, well, I'm just showing that you don't have to make excuses. And like, I turned my whole life around starting to make to-do lists on a notepad, right? That shows them, oh, well, for example, it's sub-communicated. Like I have all the available tools. I just don't need, I don't need to make excuses, right? It doesn't have to be like advice where it's practical, actionable advice, because have you ever had someone that you've known, a client, where there was a change in them that you could feel, right? You felt a change in somebody
in a good way or a bad way.
Either way, right?
Yeah.
Just being able to feel that feeling. That's the same way as that actionable advice. It doesn't have to be like something that they literally could do. It could be something where it's a new way of thinking. At the end of the day, the whole entire point of the actionable advice is to change belief systems. You're breaking belief systems with your advice, because you're saying, essentially the only reason you're making the video and giving advice is because you're saying you're not even really selling knowledge, brother, as much as you are selling influence. You're selling a belief system change, man, because there's a fucking 10 million coaches out there. And do you really think like you could literally, any of these guys that you work with, they could look this shit up on ChatGPT and figure it out in 5 seconds. But is that the difference? No, of course not. Because if that was the difference, everyone would be fucking ripped. You get what I'm saying? So the difference is their belief systems that keep them from making it an important thing, right? So like when you consistently remind them over and over again, and you're also giving practical advice where it's like, oh, I can literally do this with my, like physically do this. Or yeah, this is every time I approach, you know, I'm an overweight guy. Every time I go to the break room and there's donuts, or I'm on a road trip and I can only eat gas station food. Just think about it. At the end of the day, it's not the knowledge that's going to make them fucking stick on the diet, bro. It's going to be the belief system, right? They already knew before they were fat that binging at the fucking gas station was bad, right? It's not that now that they know alternatives that it's like, yes, they have better options now, but it's more so they could either a grown-ass adult, they could easily fuck off the diet any fucking moment that they want, right? But you want the content, and this is congruency throughout the whole system. You want it to exemplify an approach where, you know, they embody a new belief system so that they feel empowered. This is the big difference, bro, is like the content that pierces them, cuts deep, right? And some of this stuff, bro, it's when you really start to, you know, make this content, it gets to a point where it's like, you know, you are giving so much value that, and you're using this framework so much that it's like more so natural, right? You start speaking in this way, right? You start calling out to just your ICP all the time and always speaking their language. One of the quotes I love, favorite quote of all time, Dan Kennedy, he says, the best way to market and advertise is to enter into the conversation that's happening in the customer's mind. We could fucking wrap up the whole fucking session with just that quote, because it's that important. And sometimes it is a kind of a discussion of, okay, well, I'm working now. Think about this, right? I want to work with successful CEOs because now, is it because you can help those people the best, or is it because based off of your sample size, you think that working with those people is going to be a better case scenario? I just want you to consider this, right? Because if you're not a successful CEO, it's not that you can't speak to people like that or higher level business guys. It's not that you can't speak to them. But again, you can only speak to clearly the individual that you essentially has your same, not same experience level, but connects with you, right? You can only speak about confidently and with authority on the things that you've done. So I want you to think about that. This doesn't mean, and I'll explain what I mean by this. This doesn't mean that you can't speak to those people, but I'll give you an example. I started to market primarily towards overweight guys and skinny fat guys, because those were the guys that started to get the best results. It wasn't the skinny guys that wanted to bulk. It wasn't the bodybuilders that wanted to refine. It was literally the guys. Those guys were the most locked in. Like most of those guys, they just wanted to make a change. Now the thing about that is these guys were the ones that were my best clients, right? So I just started to talk to these people, but if you know anything about my story, I wasn't really overweight. I was skinny. I was like almost borderline anorexic. So I started to say, okay, well, I can't dishonestly speak about what I haven't experienced, but what I can speak on authority without a doubt, is an internal change that has to occur to be successful and have any type of physical transformation, right? So now I have full fucking authority, because guess who's an expert on me? Me. Guess who's an expert on my own fucking story? Me. I have full fucking authority on my own story, right? So I never talk outside of my realm of understanding, ever. I only speak about things that I know, but I'm also not an idiot in a way where I don't think that people will just fucking understand me and they're just going to be so influenced by what the fuck I say if there's no belief system change, right? That's why I would make my delivery with fitness so like matter of fact, like so clear, so to cut through the noise, right? To speak to my ISP, especially on stories, right? I would just enter into the conversation that's happening to their mind. I would do it on so literal too. I would even be like, I know what you're thinking, right? Right? I would say things like that, right? I would say, you think that it's not hard for most people that are overweight to lose weight? You think that those people don't have that conversation with themselves too? Ripping their no objections. What could you possibly fucking throw at me on a sales call? I already took it away from you 9,000 times in the content. The VSL warmed you up. It was like you're fucking popcorn at this point, right? And the sales process is fully refined. I could literally just fucking send you the link at that point and you're going to close.